Good morning for all of you. So today we will be having our third lecture, which we call the information gathering lesson. So this is the third lesson of system analysis and design module. So I hope you all has already go through with the first and the second lesson itself. So when it comes to information gathering, so, okay, before that, if I recall you the last two lessons, first we were discussing about the data and informations and what are the differences of data and information, how it works, and how we apply those ones and everything we discussed in lecture 1. And in lecture 2, we discussed the entire system analysis and design life cycle. So now, if you can remember what we have already done in lesson number 2, which we call the lecture number 2, then as the first step, what we had was the information gathering. Okay, so for this entire lesson, we will be talking about the strategy to gather information and also the methods what we approach of gathering information. Not only that, we will be doing kind of a case study uh, based on the hostel information system, and also as the last two we will be doing the system requirement specification. We will be documenting a kind of a SRS document, and also as at last we will be discussing about the clarifications of requirements to operational or the tactical or the strategic plannings as well. So, so now, so now we can go through with the information gathering part. So motivation, why we need to learn these stuffs when it comes to system analysis and design. Here we have the reasons. So for the motivations, the information system designed for an organization must meet the requirements of the end users of the organization. And also not only that, why we have to learn these stuffs, that is actually to obtain what an end user expects from the information system, and the designer must gain a complete knowledge of the organization's working as well. Not only that, the third option will be it is important for the student to know the information gathering techniques so that no information is overlooked and the nature of the functions of an organization are clearly understood. So these are kind of few reasons why we need to learn these stuffs what we call the information gatherings. Okay, there are few reasons more for motivational part. You can go through with these ones one by one and then learn about this. Learning goals. When it comes to learning goals, once we completed the third lesson, what we call the information gathering part, you will be able to handle the strategically to gather informations for computerization, and you will be able to identify the various sources of information, and not only that, the methods of searching for informations and the interweaving techniques to gather information from line managers to top management. Not only that, methods of consequences for formulating the requirements as well. Those are kind of few learning goals what we have today. Okay. Okay. Then let's move to the lesson now. Information gathering strategies. So now tell me, what is information? Now tell me, what is information? Before we are going to talk about the information gathering part, we need to know what would be the information. So, as we learned in lesson 1, the information is the processed data. So when it comes to data, data is raw data, which which means the unprocessed data. For the uh, but here when it comes to information, information means actually processed data. So information gathering strategies. First, we need to identify the information sources. So first, what we have to do is we need to identify from where we need to take all these informations or data. So to produce information anyway, we need to have data. So once we collected all this data, only we can process all this data. So the first task is to identify the information sources. And the second task is evolve a method of obtaining information from the identified sources. Now, what would be the second task? So, the second task is we have to evolve a method of obtaining information from the identified sources as well. So, once we identify the information sources, there we might be able to identify the useful sources as well as the unuseful or not relevant sources as well. So, what we have to do from all these sources, we need to do an what we call evaluation. Um, what we need to do is actually we need to evaluate all these sources and all these methods of obtaining information from the identified sources, and then we need to find out what would be the best source or what would be the best method to gather these information, Kayla. Then the third one would be use information flow model of organization. So the third strategy will be use information flow model of organization. Okay, now let's move to the information sources. What are the information sources you can have? So the first one is users of systems. So system users will be one source, users of systems. And then we have the second information sources, that is forms and documents used in the organization. Forms and documents used in the organization. As the third information sources, we have the producer, we have the procedure manuals as well. Not only that, we have books, rule books, and everything. So all these ones are coming under sources. Then the last two options will be one before the last, we have reports used by the organizations. And finally, we have the existing computer programs as well. If there are any um, available computer programs. Okay, so what would be the first one? Users of systems, and then the second part will be forms and the documents used in the organization. And as the third one, we have the procedure manuals or rule books, etc. And as the fourth one, we have the reports used by the organization. And as the last one, we have the existing computer programs if there are any available information sources. Now, not only that. So, what about the interviews? So, when it comes to information sources, actually, these interviews are also very important when we collect all these data to get kind of an information. So not only that, we need to use the organization chart, and we need to understand the importance of the people who operate the system, clerks, line managers as well, operate the entire system, which means we need to understand the importance of the people who operate the system. So, for example, we have the clerks and line managers also. And then, as the fourth one, we have to gather information from middle level persons. So, as the fourth step, we need to gather all these informations from the middle level persons who have lot of experience as well. So, we need to gather both qualitative and quantitative information and observe how the organization works as well. Now the now the information gathering methods. So what are the information gathering methods we have? So now information gathering methods. So what are the information gathering methods we have? So first one is the searching for information. There we can do individual interviews to gather all this data, and also not only that, we can have group discussions as well to collect all this data, and at last we can have several interviews if we needed. Sometimes we might be used multiple interviews rounds to collect all these data. So that's how we normally collect all this data, or that's how we normally search for all these informations. Then how we gonna plan an interview? How we gonna plan an interview? So to plan an interview, when it comes to plan an interview, what are the things we need to discuss or think about planning an interview? So there we have to make a list of people to be interviewed. First, we need to identify who are the interviewers. So we need to make a list of people to be interviewed, and also what would be the order, what would be the order of them. And then we need to plan and note down a list of questions to be asked. And then what we have to do, we need to plan and note down a list of questions to be asked. As the third one, we need to plan several interviews with the same person, mainly to clarify doubts as well. As the third step, what we need to do, we need to plan several interviews with same person, mainly to clarify the doubts. As the fourth step, we need to interview groups as appropriate. These are the four steps which we have to use, or which we have to consider when we plan an interview. So what would be the first one? Make a list. First we need to First, we need to make a list of people to be interviewed and in what order we are using. And also, then we need to plan and note down a list of questions to be asked from them. And then we need to plan several interviews with same person, mainly to clarify doubts as well. And finally, we need to interview groups as appropriately. That's how we are planning those interviews. Then interviewing techniques. What are the interviewing techniques we are using? So first one would be make an appointment. First we need to make some appointments with the interviewers, so that they all can block their time slot and they can keep their time for this interview. And also then we can allocate the time, and also before that, before going to the interview, before conducting the interview, you can read the entire background materials as well. So then we can state the purpose of the interview actually to the interviewer, so that he or she can clearly understand what would be the entire purpose of this interview. So he or she can get a clear idea about that, and then be punctual and pay attention to what user says as well. Not only that, um, while doing the entire interview, we should not use the computer jargons as well. We should not use the computer jargons as well. So here, interviewing techniques. So what are the techniques we have to use? One is make an appointment, and then as the second one, we need to allocate the time, and then as the third one, we need to read background materials. As the fourth one, we need to state purpose of interviews, and as the last two steps, we need to be punctual and pay attention to what user says. And at last, we do not use the computer jargons as well. That's what those are the few techniques. Those are the few interviewing techniques what we need to use. Not only that, we have to remember all these ones as well. One is we need to obtain both quantitative and the qualitative information. So quantitative means actually in Sinhala we call them as the Pramanatmaka, and then Pramanatmaka Datta or Pramanatmaka Toraturu. And for the qualitative information, we can say that uh, in Sinhala we call them as Gunatmaka Toraturu. So we need to obtain both the quantitative information as well as the qualitative information, and then discriminate between essential and desirable requirements. So then we need to know how to discriminate. We need to discriminate actually between the essential and the desirable requirements, what we call අනිවාර්ය හාත්‍යවශ්‍ය. So තිබ්බොත් හොඳයි කියන ඒවයි and also අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම තියෙන්න ඕන ඒවයි. Okay, essential means අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම තිබිය යුතුයි, but it is desirable means ඒක තිබ්බොත් හොඳයි. Okay, තිබ්බොත් වඩා හොඳයි. So we need to discriminate between essential and desirable requirements, and then we need to state what you understand and get it confirmed. So once we have that in interview with the user, then what we have to do is we need to state what we understood, what we understood from this entire interview, and also we need to get a confirmation, and we need to get a confirmation and need to get a confirmation what we need to do, and we need to get a confirmation about what we were understood on that during on the entire during interview. And also do not prolong the interviews, and also summarize information gathered and get it checked by the interviewee as well. These are the few, as I told you, these are the few interviewing techniques which we have to use as best practice during the entire week. Then we have the use of questionnaires. What are the uses of questionnaires? Questionnaires useful for statistical data collection. Questionnaires useful for statistical data collection. So, why we use these questionnaires? Questionnaires are actually useful for statistical data collection, and also we need these ones. We use these questionnaires when large number of persons have to respond. When large number of persons have to respond. Not only that, as a best practice, we need to make questionnaires much short, and also we need to design those questionnaires by enumerating objectives and data needed to be meet the objectives. Not only that, we need to follow several follow-ups, maybe sometimes 2 or 3 follow-ups, or maybe sometimes we need to do few personal interviews as per the requirement to get questionnaires back from respondents as well. If we have kind of a low respondent rates, then we need to follow up them. Um, we need to keep following up them, the respondents or the users, and then we need to get more feedbacks or respondents from the users itself. So how we gonna use these questionnaires? One is questionnaires useful for statistical data collection, and also we need to maybe it would be useful when large number of persons have to respond these ones. Not only that, we need to make all these questionnaires short, and at last we need to design questionnaires by enumerating objectives and data needed to be meet the objectives as well. And at last we need to do some several follow-ups. We need to make some several follow-ups, and the personal interviews also might be happen according to the requirement to get questionnaires back from the respondents. Okay, then we have the information gathering. Other methods. What are the other methods? Existing other methods. So one is existing system. If there is an existing system, so we need to have a clear idea about that existing system. What are the drawbacks of this system? Uh, uh, what are the new features we need to add according to the users or the client's perspective? Then what are the plus points of the current system as well, so that we can include those plus points. We can include those plus points in our new modified system as well. So anyway, to do those ones, we need to have a thorough knowledge, or we need to have a thorough what we call thorough knowledge, or else what we can say, we need to have a good idea, or we need to have proper knowledge of the existing system. Then systems in similar organizations. Maybe there might not be any existing system, but there might be few other similar systems in other organizations. So we need to study these ones as well. If they have kind of an SRS document, or if they have kind of published a paper about their systems, then we need to study those systems as well. So it will be help you to develop, design and develop a proper or good system for the requested scenario. Then observe workflow in workplace. We need to observe the workflow in workplace, and also case repository in own organizations as well. Okay, then the system, um, then we are moving to the system requirement specification. Okay, now what are the system requirement specifications we need to have? So the system requirement specifications specifies what information requirements will be provided. From this SRS document, what it is showing here is, this is actually what information requirements will be provided. And also this SRS document is not specifying how the system will be designed. It is not discussing, or it is not expressing the entire process of how the system will be designed. And also, this SRS document is obtained after excessive discussions with the users as well. Developing this SRS is most important and difficult task of a system analyst. So when it comes to system analyst, so he or she must have to develop this SRS document. It's a major job role task from their JD. Okay, so when it comes to system requirement specification, first one, that is system requirement specification specifies what information requirements will be provided, and also it does not actually specify how the system will be designed. It is not specify how the system will be designed, and this SRS is obtained after excessive discussions with the users as well. So developing SRS is most important and difficult task of a system analyst as well. System requirement specification. How this SRS is developed. Now we are moving to talk about how this SRS document is developed. What are the steps we need to follow up? First, the system analyst examines the current system if it's available. So as in the previous steps, first we need to analyze the current system if a system is available. Then analysts find out the shortcomings or the drawbacks or the limitations of the current system as seen by the user according to the user's perspective. And then the system analysts aim is to develop SRS which is understandable by the user and which can be used for detailed design of the system as well. These are the three steps, or these are the three methods. These are the actual process of how to develop a SRS document. Now, what are the ideal characteristics of this SRS document? So here, this SRS document should be complete, and also it is unambiguous. It should be unambiguous. Not only that, it should specify all these three types of information requirements. When it comes to information requirements, three types of information requirements: it should be operational, it should be tactical, it should be strategical as well. So we need to specify all these three types of information requirements: the operational information requirements, the tactical information requirements, and the strategic information requirements as well. And then we need to eliminate possible later disputes between users and the analysts. So all these users graphical aids understood by users who are not computer literate and will also be useful in design as well. And also we should not use computer jargons while we are developing a SRS document. So first thing is to this what we call the SRS document should be complete and also unambiguous. And as the second fact, we need to specify all the operational, tactical, and the strategic information requirements. And as the third step, we need to eliminate possible later disputes between the users and the analysts. And finally, we need to users graphical aids understood by users who are not computer literate and will also be useful in designs as well. And also this one is this SRS document should be jargon free. From word statements to SRS. Now, if we have kind of an English word statements, then how we gonna convert it to a SRS? So the steps are given as the first part: narratives of requirements by users, too long and imprecise. And also we need to conversion to precise specifications as well. So the first one is we need to narratives of requirements by users, too long and imprecise. And then we needs to conversion to precise specifications as well. So there, as the first step, we need to analyze the statement. That is the first thing what we need to do. We need to analyze the statement. As the second part, we need to identify the physical entities such as vendors, receiving office, and the inspection office, and etc. That is the second step. And as the third step, we need to identify the documents which are received or sent by the each office. As the fourth step, we need to draw a physical document. Okay, so when it comes to from word statement to SRS, from the entire English word statements to the um, SRS documents, first we need to narratives of requirements by users, too long and imprecise, and also we needs to conversion to precise specifications as well. And then as the step one, we need to analyze the statements. As the step two, we need to identify the physical entities such as the vendors, and also we need to do some receiving office and the inspection office, etc. as well. And then as the third step, we need to identify the documents which are received or sent by each office as well. As the fourth step, we need to draw a physical document once we completed rest of the other three steps. Okay, now we are moving to an example. First read this example carefully. Okay. So here, when it comes to example of the word statement, if we go through with the example, okay. So now, if we read this entire example, our company receives many items from several vendors, each accompanied by a delivery note. A receiving office receives the item and checks the delivery note with corresponding order. Any discrepancy is reported to purchase office. The items received along with items received, the items received along with items received notes with details of the items is sent to the inspection office. Read it again. Our company receives many items. Our company receives many items from several vendors, each accompanied by a delivery note as well. So a receiving office receives the item and checks the delivery note with corresponding order. And also, if there's any discrepancy is reported to purchase office, then the items received along with items received note is sent to the inspection office as well. That's it. Then we have the end. Okay, now what are the entities which we identified and what are the documents which we identified? If you read all these ones, so our company receives many items from several vendors. Then vendors will become an entity. Delivery note will become a documentation. A receiving office receives the item and checks the delivery note with corresponding order. Any discrepancy is reported to purchase office. Any discrepancy is reported to purchase office. Any discrepancy is reported to purchase office. Then the items received along with items received note. Then here we have the items received note as well. And also here we have the discrepancy note. Okay. Then is sent to the inspection office. So what are the documents which we found from this entire statement? One is delivery note. The other one is received note. Okay, we have the items received note, and then we have the discrepancy note. These are the three notes which we were able to identify from this entire statement. What are the entities which we identified? One is vendor, the other one is the receiving office. Here we have the receiving office, and then we have the inspection office as well. These three are the entities which we identified according to the given context. So using these, a document flow diagram is drawn. Then we can draw a document flow diagram. How we gonna draw this document flow diagram? That is, These are the steps which we need to follow up when we are representing this document in a this entire English statements in a graphical format. So the physical document flow diagram will be there, and then the logical data flow diagram we need to abbreviate it as DFD, and then we need to document flow diagram depicts various entities or officers and documents generated transmitted by these entities as well, and then we need to find out the entities represented by rectangles. So the symbol rectangle symbol will be represented entities, and then we need to document the flow by lines, and also directions is shown by the arrows as well. And then we need to document flow lines are labeled by names of the document, and finally we have to use dashed lines to depict flow of the physical items, and finally we need to document flow diagram depicts various entities and documents generated and or transmitted by these entities as well. So first one would be physical document flow diagram, and then we need to we need to have a logical data flow diagram. We need to have logical data flow diagram abbreviated as DFD, and then we need to document the flow diagram depicts various entities or officers and documents generated or we need to transmitted by these entities, and then we need to find out the entities represented by rectangles, and then we need to document flow by lines, directions is shown by arrows, and then we need to document flow lines are labeled by name of the document, and dashed lines used to depict flow of the physical items, and finally we need to document the flow diagram depicts various entities and the documents generated and or transmitted by these entities as well. This is very easy. If you look at the next slide, then you will be able to find out how the drawn data flow diagram looks like. See, we have the entities as vendors, receiving office, and the inspection office, and also the purchase office as well. Then uh, the vendors passing the delivery note to the receiving office passing the item received note to the inspection office, and among this receiving office, again receiving office passing if there's any discrepancy, then the discrepancy note to the purchase office as well. That's how it works. Okay, that's how it works. Is it clear? So here we have three entities. Entities are drawn in mentioned in a rectangle. So these ones are the direction is mentioned or drawn or marked in a what we called it as uh, in an by using an arrow. That's how it is. So these entities in the document flow diagram given above are vendor, receiving office, inspection office, and the purchase office. And all these documents are the delivery notes, items received notes, and the discrepancy notes as well. And finally, we have the physical flows, which are delivered items. That's how it is. So document flow diagram continued. If we continued the DFD, or what we call the document flow diagram, move forward, here we have the same diagram as it is, and the diagram is interpreted as follows. How we gonna interpret this entire diagram? It is vendors deliver items to receiving office accompanied by a delivery note, and receiving office sends items to inspection office along with an items received note. Not only that, as the third as the third part, here we have to use the receiving office. We need to send the receiving office to the discrepancy note to purchase office. And who are the entities? The vendors, receiving office, the inspection office, and the purchase officers are the entities. And what are the documents? Here we have the delivery note, items received notes, and the discrepancy notes as well. So the diagram is interpreted as follows. We can we can interpret the entire diagram which it shows. So the vendors deliver the items to receiving office accompanied by a delivery note, and also this receiving office sends items to inspection office along with an items received note as well. Then as the third one, receiving office sends the discrepancy note. Receiving office sends the discrepancy note to purchase office to purchase office. Then the entire entities will be the vendor, receiving office, inspection office, and the purchase office. And we have the documents as delivery note, items received notes, and the discrepancy notes as well. That's how it is. Now the data flow diagram, DFD. So the data flow diagram also has entities and data flows. This data flow diagrams also has entities and data flows. Besides, this data flow diagrams specifies processing performed by some of the entities as well. Here, then the data flow diagrams specify which entities generate the documents, and then the details of documents and their flow is there, and the processing performed by some entities also there, and then data stores which are referred while processing data, and in which processed data may be written or stored as well. So here we have the DFD, data flow diagram, which is also entities and data flows. And also besides this data flow diagram specifies processing performed by some of the entities as well. And then these data flow diagrams specify which entities generate the documents, and also the details of the documents and their flows also uh, discussed or mentioned on this data flow diagram itself. And then the processing performed by some entities as well, and then data stores which are referred while processing data and in which processed data may be written or stored. These are the few things which we have to know when it comes to data flow diagrams. Now the data flow diagrams continued. These are the entities: vendor, orders, inspection office, and the purchase office. So these are the notes: delivery notes, discrepancy note, and the items received notes. And what would be the in the middle? The entire process will be the receiving process. That's how it works. So if we rewrite all these ones in English statements, entities are originated of data and consumers of data. Entities. What are the entities here we have? The vendors, orders, inspection office, and the purchase office. Who we are going to consider as entities? Entities are originated of data. Entities are the persons who originate all this data, and also we can say all the consumers of the data as well. So vendor, inspection office, and the purchase office. All these three are entities in the above diagram, and data flows are delivery node, items received node, and the discrepancy node as well. So a circle is used to depict the entire process. Here, this process we are naming it as receiving process. A circle is used to depict a process, and a pair of parallel lines depict a store as well. That's how it works. So here, data in a store may be read by a process. So this data in a store may be read by a process, and this processed data may also be written in a store. This processed data may also be written in a store, and circles depicting process are detailed separately using structured English algorithms or decision tables as well. And then these data flows are expanded to detail the data elements as well. So the contents of the data stores are also details. That's how this entire data flow diagram works. Then we have the data elements in a data flow and store. So the delivery node, which is order number, it will consist of order numbers, vendor codes, vendor names, and address, item names, item codes, delivery date, and the quantity supplied, and also the units. And then the items received node will consist of the order number, item name, item code, delivery date, quantity supplied, and the units as well. Then we have the discrepancy node. That discrepancy node may be consist of order number, vendor code, vendor name, and address, item name, item code, order date, delivery date, quantity supplied units, excess, deficiency, and also number of days late or early. And then we have the receiving of these order files, that is order number, order date, item name, item code, vendor name, and address. Not only that, the quantity ordered and the delivery period as well. What are the processing rules when it comes to data flow diagrams? So each statement, compare order number in delivery node. So we have to mention all these processing rules regarding this entire data flow diagram. So what are the English statements? So here we have to compare order number in delivery node with that in order file. If no match, return item to vendor. As the second one, according to this context, we need, if this order number matches, then we need to compare them, compare the item codes. If no match, return item to the vendor. If no match, return item to the vendor. As the third one, if order number matches, compare quantity delivered with quantity ordered. If the order number matches, compare quantity delivered with quantity ordered. Then if excess or deficient, send discrepancy note to purchase the office as well. If order number matches, compare date of delivery with expected date. Then if late or early, send discrepancy note to purchase office as well. In case 3 and in case 4, send all the items received note to inspection office. So we need, likewise, according to this given context, these are the processing rules which we need to follow. So context to context to context to context, what will happen? The processing rules might be different. So in case 3 and in case 4, we need to send items, receive notes to inspection office. The above statements are shown to the user for his approvals as well. Then we have the operational, tactical, and the strategic information. For this, simple examples are for this. These are the few simple examples. What are the operational information? So here, according to this one, the operational information will be automatic checking of delivery against order and create discrepancy note. So for a note discrepancy, if any of each order. Then the tactical one, evolve vendor performance index based on discrepancy in supplies and quality inspections as well. And then the third one would be the strategic one, uh, that is, which is use performance index to decide proportion of order for an item to be placed with each vendor. So we need to develop new vendors if all existing vendors' performance are very poor. These are kind of few operational, tactical, and the strategic informations which we need to process, which we need to follow according to this given context. So here we have the systems steps in system analysis and design. So what are the steps? We need to start the user requirements, start from the user requirements. There, we need to study the current system first, and then we need to pass the physical document flow diagram, and then we need to design the logical system, and then we need to pass this one to the logical data flow diagram. Then we will receive the new system model, the new system models. Once we receive this new system model, we have the feasibility document. We have the feasibility document going towards the new logical data flow diagram as well. New logical data flow diagram as well. From this new system model, we can have feasibility document and the descriptive statement of the information and the processing rules and also data dictionaries as well. All these ones are coming um, on this system analysis and design steps. Then we have the modularizing requirement specifications, that is SRS documentation. So this SRS document now consists of the document flow diagrams as many as needed, and also not only that, it includes the data flow diagrams as well. First, it includes the document flow diagrams, and then it includes the data flow diagrams, and then at last, it includes the data elements of each data flow and data store as well. So here we have the SRS documents. Here we have what um, what are the things it includes in the SRS documents here. And also not only that, we have we have to include all the processing rules carried out in each circle of the document flow diagrams, and also a descriptive statement of the operational, tactical, and the strategic information also will be provided. Not only that, a data dictionary which consolidates all data elements in the document and data stores as well. All these ones are included in SRS document. That's what here we have to learn in the third lesson, which we call the information requirements gathering. Okay, if I go through from here, from the beginning, again, here we have the information gathering and then the motivations why we learned these stuffs, and then the learning goals also included, and then we move to the topic itself, the information gathering strategies. What are the strategies we are using? What are the information sources we collect all these data and information? And then the information gathering methods. What are the methods which we gather all these informations and which we gather all these data? And they are the main role placed by the interviewing process. Then how we gonna plan an interview, and then what are the interviewing techniques we need to follow up, and then we need to use the questionnaires as well, and also the information gathering. What are the other methods we have to gather all this information, and then what are the system requirement specification, and the system requirement specifications, how it works, and then how from word statements, how we gonna convert these entire word statements to say SRS document. Then what are the entities, what are the documents we have to identify, and then how we gonna, once we identified all these statements, then how we gonna convert these statements to a graphical representation, then how to draw a document flow diagram, and then how to convert this document flow diagram into a data flow diagram. What are the things we should include on this data flow diagram itself, and how to draw this data flow diagram, and what are the symbols, what are the things it represents for all these symbols, and how we gonna find out the data elements in data flow and also the data store as well, and what are the processing rules according to this context we need to follow up, and what are the operational information, tactical information, and the strategic information which we have to consider while we are analyzing and designing this entire system according to this given context, and also what are the steps in system analysis and design when it comes to when it comes to this context, and at last how to modularizing all these requirements to specification document. And that's what we learned from this entire lesson. Okay, so you will be having few activities as well, so please participate for all these lessons, all these lectures, so that you will be able to um, gather a practical knowledge as well. So thank you so much for listening, and see you all on next lesson.